My name is Niall Bellabarba, co-founder and managing director of a Fintech startup called Ernest. And we're building a layer of artificial intelligence on top of people's bank accounts. So first health warning, first one there, limited deep AI knowledge. I know of fuzzy logic and multiple stage neural networks, but I am by no means a data scientist. So I'm an electronic engineer with an MBA, but I am not a deep tech. If you want, I can speak to my data scientist. My knowledge in this area is okay, but I'm not an AI expert. This is an industry packed of buzzwords and a lot of media hype, as people before me have said. So I would approach this with caution, as the media hype will lead you to believe all kinds of crazy stuff. So a bit of caution there. And indeed, the media is in the business of hyping stuff up. So there's a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy there. As I was saying, I used to work for BlackRock on LinkedIn. This is a post I did in 2015. Man versus machine in investment management. As I say, working on Aladdin, that helps to have a view of a very, very good machine. And the basic premise in that space, again, it's a full return on investment purposes, is starting point of our beauty as humans, but also our frailties in the sense that we're very biased. If you've read a very good book by Kahneman, even if we're extremely good doctors and lawyers and physicists, the way our brain works leads us to be extremely prone to biases. We're just geared that way. It's incredible. No matter how good you are, as a human, you're actually not very machine-like. Obvious statement, but that's the reality. We're very biased, and it's very difficult for us to follow rules. Another aspect is the market forces in selling products lend us to give out products that maybe are misengineered or not in the best interests of the real customer. And on the plus side, however, because of our abilities of our real brain, not a machine brain, our real brain is we imagine things, we dreams of futures, things that for machines are in this current state of time are just impossible. We're paranoid. There's analysts at BlackRock that when they see the data coming out of Bloomberg will assume that it's rubbish and their analysis is better. A machine can't doubt the data it's given, but as humans we're very good at that, at spotting what we suspect is wrong. That's actually very strong pluses. No machine can currently do that. On the plus side for the robots, though, they're very narrow, very linear. Whatever you give it, it'll crunch the hell out of it and be way better than, as we just saw in the many examples, AlphaGo, DeepMind, etc. What I see happening in the future is this best of both worlds. You get the automation out of the machine and use the human for the bits that he's best at. The machine does the number crunching and the human does what he's best at as a human, which is actually more often than not the number crunching. So, best of both worlds. There's a couple of examples I've already mentioned. Driving vehicles, we're not very good drivers. We're really not. We're just not that very good at driving, especially hours and hours and hours. A machine is way better than us at that. Obviously, lifting weights, exoskeletons, bomb disposals, everybody's seen the Boston Dynamic videos. Those are awesome machines. Those are the machines you want to be using. Those are way better than we could ever be. And so there's areas for robots of, as it was said before, of these 7 million jobs of going away, where actually, in some respects, it's not very nice to give that job to a human. Really, it's not that nice. As humans, we're way better than being a person that stacks shelves at Tesco. Really? You need a human for that? A waiter, a barista, a receptionist at a hotel, call center worker. These are jobs that are repetitive, machine-like. We've given them to a human, but we shouldn't have. We really shouldn't have. The time now is to take the human out of that and give him a better job. And so there's areas for humans where instead the human touch, really our beauty, our ability of being humans comes into its own. So caring for the elderly, these are professions that are not very well rewarded now, but I really think that we can do better and give them better jobs. Teaching, again, it's not by virtue of an online course that a kid learns to love engineering. It's by virtue of a good teacher that makes him imagine what the future, by virtue of engineering, will build. And so you fall in love with engineering or with medicine, etc. So as humans, we have this area where, obviously, with the machines helping us, but there's whole areas where we can be better. Doctors, there was a very good example of machines helping doctors. I can see this whole area going better. And of course, coding, because with more machines, you'll need more software developers. So my philosophical point on this area, and obviously it's a very philosophical point, it's arguable, is that it's a bit of an evolutionary phase. Our frailties, our biases, effectively what we're not very good engineered, we're not very well engineered for, with machines we will become better. We'll become better number crunchers, better decision makers. We will be a little bit more left-minded. And so I think you see that as an evolutionary phase. I'm not so negative like Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk. I don't see that negativity. I think there's too much negativity in the press around robots. I think there's a lot of opportunities for positive robots, and I'll get to one in a second. And there's therefore plenty of opportunity to improve ourselves, because as humans we are beautifully imperfect. There's a lot of things we're not good at. Rationality being one of them, right? First premise of investments, well, the investor is rational. We're definitely not rational. More often than not, we're very irrational. And realism, like going back to the very first point about the hype, we are not in the extreme AI vision, right? We are in an automation phase. We're using robots to very, very quickly answer specific questions. We're not in the pure AI phase, and we're not going to be there anytime soon. So, final point, which leads on to what my startup does. It won't be very long, so I hope it'll be entertaining. So many jobs, customer-facing jobs, are all about conversations. And these conversations can be effectively automated. You can use robots for conversation. So a quick point on chatbots. We were talking about the technologies that you can use for natural language processing. A chatbot is a conversational robot. He takes a conversation, he tries to understand what you're really after. First step is really you need to understand the user's question. So here, there's all kinds of technologies you can use from the big boys. So Google has some, Apple has some, Facebook has some, Microsoft has some. And they're called Luis, Wait AI, API AI, TensorFlow. They basically allow you to, whatever command you give, what is the intent the user is after. If you have big teams, you might try and build your own. So Superscript, RiverScript are very good. If you have deep pockets, you'll pick up the phone and speak to IBM. It's quite expensive, or DeepMind, Google DeepMind. There it's really a problem of what's the budget you have and what's the complexity of the problem you're trying your robot to fix. Is it like ours, a robot for finance? Is it a robot for medicine? Is it a robot for ordering flowers? What is the complexity of the robot that it needs to automate? Once you've understood the user's question, well, you need to answer the question. Here it's more traditional technologies. It's databases and the correct query to run against the intent that you've understood with the variable. So there it really depends what you like. MySQL, Postgres, caching if you want, Python. It really depends on really what is your core competence. And then finally, if you are building a conversational robot, you need to deliver the answer. You don't need another app. There's many apps out there. So our view is that a conversational robot has to be in existing platforms where conversations are already happening. In our case, we start with Facebook Messenger, Telegram, WeChat, WhatsApp, Skype. There's many platforms there. If your robot is about a conversation, then deploy it where conversations are already happening. And there maybe the question mark is, do you want your robot to have a personality, or do you want him to be personality agnostic? Do you want your robot to be cold, or do you want your robot to be funny, like Poncho? Poncho is a robot that's trying to be your friend. Or is it the robot your MD, which is your doctor? So there's a robot to triage your illnesses where he has no personality. In our case, the personality is also what he's doing. He's looking after your finances. So his name is Ernest. So he's supposed to be quite serious. He's not jokey because it's your personal finances, but at the same time, doesn't want to be too boring. So there, the battle, the competitive edge is whether or not you can develop a good personality in your robot. So, a quick whistle-stop tour through a couple of slides and a quick demo of the product. This is where our robot Ernest starts. Most people are not very, very good with their finances. They don't look at the data, they don't have the time, and unfortunately some do not have the ability to answer some important questions on their own financial well-being, which means most of us waste money, don't pay the bills on time, don't pay the credit card on time, overspend at expensive times of the year. There's a lot of things that we don't do very well. Savings, UK, is a bit of a credit-fueled economy, credit card-fueled, so there's very low savings rate. And banks aren't really in the space of helping you with your money. It's more or less, they're giving out mortgages. That's really their business model. They don't really care what you do or do not do with your finances. So that's really where we start. The first one is probably the most important point. really want a robot that's helping you. So day to day, he's there on Messenger and he's trying to proactively ping you insights that are useful to you. Hey, Bob, you didn't pay the credit card. It's now accruing interest. Bob, the council tax, it goes out on the 10th. You didn't pay it. Be careful, you might get fined. Bob, spend on shopping and transport's a little high. You might run out of money in 10 days' time. Be careful, you might get charged an overdraft. Basically, a robot that's proactively sending you notifications to help you. The other aspect is answering questions like, hey, Ernest, I'd like to buy a house. Hey, Ernest, my wife wants an expensive present. Hey, Ernest, I need to book my summer holidays. What's a reasonable budget? You know, all of these questions are mathematically banal, given the data, right? It's not, really isn't rocket science, but nobody runs the numbers. It's really an opportunity there to help people with their finances. Single access point, it was mentioned, PSD2, open APIs. Banks will be opening up the APIs to bank account data. So single access point to any bank account, and helps you save money. That really there's about helping people save small amounts but regularly. It's like fitness training. If you try and prepare for a marathon and just with 1 week's training, it's not going to be pleasant. If your savings are something that you do small amounts but regularly all the year round, at the end of the year you put enough money away. And that's really what we're trying to do there. Engender the habits of saving. So really, that's really what we're building, an intelligence layer across bank accounts. We can answer some of the questions you see here. Our vision is really, like the example of Jeopardy, is really to bolt on that form of intelligence, but armed with your personal banking data. Because that's really where a lot of people, and I mean millions of people, will stop making silly mistakes in their personal finances. Credit cards suddenly get paid on time. Nobody goes overdrawn. So how much money are banks making on just overdraft fees, which is just bad planning or just not low awareness? There's loads of things that millions of people could be better off if they were just a little bit better with their numbers. So you're basically connecting your bank account to Ernest. So the first thing, that overview is something that gets sent out every week so the user knows his overview of his spend. Categorization, automatically post-onboarding, all of the shops that are recognized so the user knows all of his shops' top spend. It automatically recognizes 16 categories in onboarding. So you join and he knows all your food, your shopping, your transport, anything you want. Bills, for example, this is a quick graph that he generates on the fly to know your latest bill spend. You can ask it questions on any time frame or any vendor. So it'll draw you a little graph of what's your recent spend at Tesco. I'll go do an analysis of what you spent last year on Uber. You basically ask it any vendor, any time horizon, any category, and it already does that. And that's basic level intelligence. Now we're starting to build out the more interesting things like, I'd like to buy a house. I'm getting married, I need $5,000 by autumn. These are all, again, very simple questions, but with that kind of a platform, you can start building them out. Categorization, right now it's more intelligent than any banking app that's out there, but that's really not a great barrier to entry. We really need to start increasing the intelligence of Ernest so that he actually starts answering difficult questions. The team, so there's a couple of ingredients that you need to make this kind of a business a success. Finance understanding, as I said, I used to work for BlackRock. Development expertise, Lorenzo Sicilia and Andrea, 20 years building technical solutions. And AI understanding, so Cristoforo Mione has patents in the fuzzy logic and neural network space. So a great team to build this kind of a business out. Being very pragmatic. A year ago, all I had was 30 slides. And now I have 2,000 users. So it's been a very exciting year. If anybody is an investor, we're raising a seed fund. And we're doing innovative things. We're building out an index to tell the user how financially fit he is, from 0 to 100, a simple number that tells him you're at 55 and to get to 60, here's 5 things that you can work on to get there. Our business model is freemium. We really like Spotify, so free. Basic, Ernest is free for everyone, and then premium features, more about advanced features for saving and investing. Our user base traction, it's been a hell of a year. We got a lot of media coverage, and yep, that's really what we're doing, building out European fintech asset with machine learning and AI. I think this is actually another deck. This is not the deck for this. It must have switched. Anyway, that's it. That's me. Thank you very much.